So real nice to have Dave and Ben from Plex to talk about a new acquisition they recently made, Kors. So thanks for joining me, guys. Look forward to the presentation.
Great, Vinnie. Good to be with you. So yeah, I'm going to talk about an acquisition that Plex has just completed. So Kors Engineering has been a longtime partner of Plex, 20-year partner, Michigan-based company. And really, Kors' main product, Mach 2, has been the go-to software for our customers to connect our cloud MES software to the shop floor. So as customers wanted to connect machines to drive automated recording of production and status into Plex, they would generally use the Kors Mach 2 product. And so we're going to talk about that today. I'll go through some of the functionality it provides, how that impacts Plex and the rest of our products. But the Kors team has been a great partner over these 20 years. Lots of industry experience, and all of those employees have joined Plex at this point and will be continuing to run that product as part of Plex now.
Ben, this is mostly a product acquisition because I know Kors used to do some services too. I know Jerry some of the Mach 2 in the past, but so this is more of a product acquisition.
So we did acquire the whole company. They had transitioned over the years. They were more of a systems integrator to start, and then over the past years they had really productized their offering and gone to a subscription model themselves. So they did a small percentage of service business, professional services, along with the product subscription, and everybody came over, the whole company.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep. So they were well spread across our customer base. So all verticals: automotive, process manufacturing, food and beverage, small companies, large companies, internationally in multiple countries. Not as many countries as we're in. We're in 37 countries now. Kors was in around 9 or 10 countries. And we're able to execute that with a very small staff. Their model was, to your earlier point, Vinnie, they would really come in, they would show a customer how to configure the software. It's a low code type of environment that we'll get to see in the presentation here. And once they showed them how to get the first couple machines on, really those customers were usually off to the races, and they would do most of the other additional work themselves. They would maybe call the Kors people back if they had maybe something new or different they wanted to do, but it was generally pretty lightweight, and so they didn't have a big services requirement after they get a company kicked off. So what they found is what Plex had found over time was that, as we worked with manufacturers, they would have a variety of equipment on the floor, right? They might have something new with PLCs and wireless and lots of data registers, or they would have something that was a 30-year-old piece of equipment that couldn't connect really to anything. And that really became, Kors could come in and connect to anything. They would generally leverage software in the middle for the communication protocols. So Kepware is often used to handle all the different protocols, but they could, whether they were hooking up to a PLC or maybe using a small hardware device that they could just wire up directly to an old piece of equipment, either way they would take that. Now, their software installs on premise. So this is new for Plex. We've been fully cloud only, multi-tenant SaaS. And so really that was one of the importances of this acquisition, was it really took Plex to the edge and let us own the solution that brought us to the shop floor, and software that would install on premise, usually in a server closet at the plant. The data from the machines would flow in to that local server. It could either buffer there or just immediately real-time stream out to Plex in the cloud. So all the data, and this is one of the beauties of the solution, it's really this hybrid cloud now, is that Kors never was trying to be a data vault, data historian. They really were just the connectivity portion, this low-code interface, and then all the data really leveraged all of Plex's capabilities and streamed all that data into Plex.
So I think I know the answer. if you got a customer who say, hey, look, I don't want to buy your ERP, but I would like Kors's technology and expertise, would you say no?
So it's a good question. So Kors, 98% of their customers are Plex customers.
Right.
A few oddballs out there, but for the most part, their solution is optimized to run on Plex. Now, one of the things we'll be looking at, we'll talk about this some more, is it does give us an opportunity to expand the entry point to Plex. So we'll talk a little bit about production monitoring and what that could look like, and as a direction that Plex may go, leveraging the capabilities that Kors has, in addition to what we have together. So what we found though is that usually, so these were customers who they bought Plex, and either at the time they bought Plex or shortly after implementing Plex, they said, look, I love the software, like what I can do, but instead of an operator manually logging this stuff into a control panel session, I want the machine to do it. Maybe it's a fast tack time line. Maybe I want more accurate up down time information on my machines that I'm getting from the operator doing. I want the machine to tell me when it's down. And so basically those customers, they were dealing with, lack of, they hadn't often started a digital transformation, industry 4.0 journey. They were usually on older equipment. Maybe they had siloed solutions, things that weren't connecting. And so really this gave us a way to bring them in with a single solution optimized to work with our software, and let them follow a standard approach. I can tell you from my experience as a customer, as I would often put in Mach 2, and what it allowed me to do was replace maybe a homegrown system that was maybe on one line or two, but wasn't ubiquitous across the plant. Usually nothing was the same from plant to plant. And so it gave me a supportable system that I could then copy that approach across multiple product lines and plants. So as we look at kind of what value that brings as well to the customers, and on the left side of the slide here are a number of screenshots from the Kors product. We'll have a couple more on the next slide too. But it is bidirectional communication. So Kors is not only communicating with Plex via APIs, so it can say, hey, this machine says I'm ready to record production. And it can check with Plex, well, what job is selected? Is there sufficient source inventory? Is the right part running, that's loaded on the machine, is loaded in that job for Plex? If everything's good, Plex can send back a package of ZPL code to print a label, and do all that real time. Customers can also go beyond that. So you see the day one, day two value there. The most common use cases, like I mentioned, were I want to automate the status of the machine, and I want it to record production for itself. By far the two most common, because they want the accuracy.
There isn't as much maintenance than focus, more manufacturing.
Not as much. And that will lead me to another point too. Like, how does this fit with Plex's IoT product, which is about asset health and maintenance? And so as customers got into that, maybe that first step was day one, and that could happen very quickly. The day two, then they'd start to explore that. So with this kind of low code, no code environment, it's, picture a flow chart type of approach. Machine does this, it made a part, send this request. Okay, now, Plex responds, what do I do? And so, what if it's a bad part? Then the system could record scrap or make it a suspect part. So they could really start to orchestrate the manufacturing process with the Kors tool. And then how does that fit with the IoT product? So for asset health. So a couple of years now, Plex has had an IoT product. And well, there is some overlap, like both products would know, is the machine running? But where the IoT product goes is it's really more on sensor feeds. And it's saying, well, what's the temperature of the machine, the vibration, what speed is the conveyor running at? And we would stream that data into our time series data store in the cloud and really be able to give you a picture of what that machine is performing like, and what its statistics are, both at the time I'm making production and how that machine is performing in general. I could set upper and lower limits, set alerts, so I know, oh, my machine is going to need maintenance. It's getting out of spec. So really, you got kind of both pieces, both the asset health and how it's performing in relation to the production process for the parts I'm making.
But
So
the maintenance that the asset health in your case would be based on usage versus wear and tear that the machine is reporting, correct?
yeah, it is usage for sure. And so we would know like the number of parts produced off of it. But we do have customers who have used both the IoT product and to some degree Kors too, to say, I've got a machine that maybe over time it gets out of spec. So we have a customer who has a furnace and the conveyor over time starts to shift out of position. Well, when it gets far enough out of position that conveyor can break, and then they have 2 days of downtime to cool the furnace down, repair the conveyor, heat it back up again. Versus with the IoT product, they would put sensors around that conveyor. And as it starts to shift out of position, when it gets too far, they can start to make adjustments to it on the fly, as opposed to actually letting it break and replace it. So there are some kind of maintenance implications there as well. So as we look at the Mach 2 product, and really, so as it compared to like the sensor feeds coming in from an IoT product, think of the Mach 2 product as, if you just had Plex and you weren't connected to machines, you took a thin client, a tablet, a PC, put that on the shop floor, you're accessing it via a browser, and the operator is interacting with it. I'm picking my next job, I'm making this part, clocked in, oh, I made a full container, give me a label, I put it on the box. Really, Mach 2 is coming in and it's automating those steps so the operator can be more hands-free. And because the Mach 2 product has been optimized for Plex over 20 years, it's a very turnkey solution. They know what are the APIs they need to call for Plex. They know what kinds of responses they're going to get. So they can really just come in, install the product, hook it up to the machines, and you're off to the races. That data then, both the IoT data and the Mach 2 data, you get to see in context of all that production activity. So you look in Plex, and one of the examples I like to give is somebody comes in, they notice there's some bad parts that were made. They look in the MES and Plex's system, they can see, oh, those were made third shift last night. I know exactly who the operator was, what machine they were on, what time those parts were made, how many parts were made. And then in the context of Mach 2 and the IoT product, not only do I have a very clear certainty of when that all occurred as it was driven by the machine, but I also know how the machine was performing. I know that, maybe it never got up to temperature, or the conveyor was running too fast. Somebody had changed the settings on the machine, and that's why I made the bad parts. So those two pieces of information together, both the MES data and the machine data, is transformational in figuring out what's actually going on in my plant. That's that contextualized information in the middle. And then really this flexible tool set. So, one of the beauties of Plex and the reason it's been so popular is because it's this, we're configurable, not customizable. A customer comes in, they say, hey, here's my configuration. I can take a template and I can use that template on multiple lines or multiple plants, and it's very fast to deploy. At the end of the day, manufacturing processes can be very complex. And so if they really want to automate that and pick up the nuances of the machine sent this kind of signal, or it did this, or, oh, it was scrapped, but then there's a visual inspection that the machine doesn't know about. Those are the kinds of things that can be orchestrated with the Mach 2 product. You have very low latency because it's there installed on the shop floor, or at the plant in the server closet. And it really gives a lot of flexibility on the shop floor, yet still gets all the benefits of Plex because the data gets streamed into our cloud. So we've had a lot of success with customers. 3 of them highlighted here: Thai Summit, Newman Technologies, Hatch. As you would expect, most of the metrics we see here are around cycle time improvements, real-time OEE. So I'm not relying on the operator say, I put this, my machine's idle, or I went on break. You could say, hey, machine, if you're not running for 60 seconds, put yourself in an idle mode. And then all that data is accurate into the system. Live scrap monitoring, like I said, if the machine knows it made bad parts, those can be streamed in. So cycle time improvements, companies that find out, I've experienced this, companies not being able to, plants not able to produce enough product, and they say, hey, we're running 3 shifts, 7 days, it's lights out, we can't do anymore. And you find out, well, really on third shift, only 2 machines are running. And on Sunday, there's only 4 people in the plant, right? And so, hooking up to the machines really drives that level of transparency.
So Ben, Plex is a destination, right? Is Kors only when passing along anomaly data, or is it passing along all the data?
So good question. So Kors is generally going to pass along. Well, the customer is going to decide if they want, say, all production data passed, all status data, and usually they do. Now there could be other data. So Kors could capture other, say, quality data. Maybe there's a test that runs on that machine. So a lot of times that final pack out machine maybe does 4 tests and it says, yep, this part is good, and send it, record production, I made it. So they could say stream those 4 different pieces of data onto the local server there, store them in a SQL database, but then just count up the parts, and when the full container is reached, then send that to Plex and record production. You could leave those 4 pieces of data on that local server, or if they wanted to, they could have put a control plan into Plex and a check sheet in Plex. And instead of having, it's probably too much data too fast for an operator to record those metrics on every single part. And so maybe in a manual mode, they would have sampled those and put those in, say, every 200 parts. But with the Mach 2 software, they could capture all 4 of those. They could store them in the SQL. They could also stream them up to Plex into our quality system and record those all along with the parts as well. So they could do either.
Okay.
And a lot of times it depends on the volume of the data, what the customer requirement is.
That's why I asked, yeah.
Yeah. So they may be, now we can take, even with our IoT product, we've done a lot of work on the efficiency that we can stream in. I mean, as a company, we process over 8 billion transactions every day. So we're really good at handling lots of data, and we bring on a big customer and we don't even notice a blip. But to the point of that customer, maybe they're taking, they've got video or pictures they're taking, and they don't really want to stream that up to us. They'd rather keep that locally. Then they can do that and then associate the serial number with it or something. Yeah. Inventory turns, decreased downtime, all the normal things. Our customers tend to see those kind of metrics already, and then those get amplified with a product like Mach 2. And so as you look at our offerings now, and Plex has gone from 25 years ago, we were only an ERP system, to we've really expanded beyond that. Companies bought our ERP because of our manufacturing system. And so now we've split out the MES, as you know, Vinnie. We've offered IoT. As of the end of last year, we also have split out our quality management solution, so a company can start there. And then we also have our supply chain planning that's built into the system and has advanced supply chain and demand planning capability. And so really Mach 2 sits down here at this integration layer, as companies are now can connect machines and they can drive that quality data into the quality system, the production data into the MES, into the ERP. The data comes in, and also our IoT product also leverages Kepware to connect to machines. So we can really stream data in. Mach 2 becomes this machine integration piece that feeds all our other systems. Won't spend too much time on this slide. There's a lot going on here, but basically there's some of the things I already talked about. These are all things listed here that companies can do in Plex. They do on our control panel, usually through an operator. What we're saying here is that Mach 2 really is allowing you to automate these things to, I've changed the setup on the machine. Oh, tell Plex what part I'm making now. The machine can tell Plex. Drive in the quality data we just talked about. Get my ZPL labels and print them to the printer that's right there. We talked about automating production. You can do things around serial numbers and barcodes and VINs, integrating other peripherals, whether that's weigh scales are very common, but other measurement peripherals, running in Scrap, and then you get all of the Plex traceability from our serialized inventory system is all still connected in there behind the scenes. And so last slide. So really, our customers were getting a lot of these advantages through partnering with the Kors engineering team in Mach 2. But as we talked with customers, and as Plex has evolved, we knew we wanted to own that space down to the machines at the edge to really give us some more opportunities. It gives some comfort to our customers. Instead of us passing them off to a partner who is a smaller company, they get the breadth of Plex to know that we can support that. We already had people who were implementing the Mach 2 solution. Our other partners also implemented it, so we already had some scale there. So it brings us to the edge, gives us that closed loop.
What if you go to a company and they already have something like Wonderware running, which is collecting a lot of the data? Would you work with Wonderware, or would Kors would interface with that?
Yeah, so we can, so we don't, companies often, may not want to pull something out, especially if it's a program they've already launched, they've already made the investment.
Right.
They could use that other product to call our APIs in a similar fashion. So they can do that. We don't have to replace what they had. But most often, if a company, maybe they've just got a fringe piece running over there, it's usually not spread across their plant. Or if they're starting from scratch, or they're looking to do something new, they want the turnkey solution from us, and we would put in Mach 2. And then oftentimes, even though maybe they kept that Wonderware solution or something, when that program goes away, maybe that solution dies with it, or they replace it if they really want to. But a lot of times those point solutions kind of linger until they get end of life, and then they just go away. But we're put in on any of the new programs or challenges they have.
Okay.
And so we see it as a good opportunity. I mentioned like production monitoring, so we can do things with Mach 2. One of the things we've done with Plex is coming from full ERP to MES to a quality management solution. We want to give companies a place to start that journey if they're thinking, well, I want to get started. And a lot of companies, they come to us and say, hey, I want an MES system. And when they say MES system, they don't really necessarily want to control all their inventory and do labeling. They just want to know if their machines are running and what their OEE is. And so the core solution is optimized for that. We've got dashboards that can be put up on the shop floor, that can run on the supervisor's tablet, and they can really see what's running, get that OEE, and that is a great entry point. It's very lightweight, it's very easy to do, and then when they're ready to grow into more integrated quality or that, then they can expand to the rest of the system.
I suspect we're starting to see more greenfield and brownfield plants, right? As people start bringing some manufacturing back home. Oftentimes they don't want your ERP. They really want the MES to connect some of the automation they're going to have. So I'm glad you moved towards deconstructing your big monoliths.
Yes. Yep. And you're right. And as they get in there, and
it's not a big monolith compared to some of the others, but
right. But it does give them, we find they want options. Like you said, maybe it's a greenfield site. We've had customers that have another ERP fully deployed, but either through acquisition or a greenfield site, they need something brought up quickly in a matter of months. And we're the go-to solution for that because we're so fast. Yeah. And then they want a collection of systems. Maybe they want to run a full ERP here. They want to run MES over there, or maybe they want to just start with quality in another plant. And so optionality and this ability, I think that's where, there's lots of other players, of course, out there in production monitoring space, but your data tends to get siloed there. And we see that the ability to grow and to put that all together, that growth path is one of the unique advantages that we offer as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of what Ben said reinforces the fact that the load code piece of this is really important. We view that as being very important because you don't need programmers to turn this up. As Ben said, it's kind of a flowchart system. And so when you think about manufacturing employees, and there are today, A, there's a big skill set gap, and B, there tend to be more employees leaving manufacturing from a retiree perspective than coming in. And so it's really critical, as we know, machine connectivity and getting data off machines is critical. but doing so in a way where it doesn't take months and months and months to turn something up and onboard someone. This is very quick. And so people can take advantage of this system very quickly and get to that data very quickly with the skill set challenges that we're having and will continue to have. I think the second part of that too that Ben hit on is, you heard the term automation throughout, and automating isn't about, putting people out of work at all. It's about efficiency, but at the same time, again, there's a numbers game here. And we know that at least right now, the net number of employees I mentioned, as you well know, leaving versus coming into manufacturing is probably a gap that's shrinking. And so to the extent that we can automate to make it easier for people to do as much or more with less people, great. And secondly, with the automation piece, you're taking the manual data entry piece, and as Ben mentioned, all the manual recording, all the error prone stuff out of the equation.
Yep.
So it works in both those ways. And I think the third thing that Ben mentioned, just for clarity, is with the Mach 2 product and the IoT product as a complement. My takeaway from that, or the way that I tend to think of it, as Ben outlined really well, is the great complement between the two is, in my opinion, where Mach 2 kind of tells you the what, and you can see it now, and the IoT, the industrial IoT product, tells you the why, right? So you can find out what happened, but why did it happen? When did it happen? And between MES and IoT, then you can start to get predictive to where we know when something is going to happen. We're trending things over time, and that's the pie in the sky, is predictive and then ultimately prescriptive. So that's the perfect complement there, is the real-time now what, and then the time series data why, and really analyzing and looking at those anomalies to be able to predict future outages, to increase uptime and to take that out of the equation.
That's great, Dave. On the aging workforce retiring, I've heard that from so many. COVID is accelerating that. I was talking to a field service vendor, and they said one thing that's really been helpful is they've taken the older generation field service tech and moved them into a remote center or working from home, and sending only the younger techs out. They're much more comfortable going out, even if they're not vaccinated, right? So we're seeing the aging population, either because they finally got to spend time with the family, or because they're spooked or whatever, are retiring at record numbers. So it's actually a little scary. Yeah.
And we saw automation was of course big before COVID, but really it accentuated that trend, right? And we had, now you had companies trying to run without people in the plants. You had, when people did come back, they had big incentives for unemployment, so they didn't want to come back. And then you had a larger number of temporary employees who aren't trained, either from a quality standpoint or how to execute or how to run the equipment. And so automation helped solve many of those things. And we've seen, probably saw some of the metrics that Plex had been publishing during COVID about kind of production levels globally. And we finally saw that production levels went back, actually in the United States at least, met the pre-COVID numbers.
Jerry presented your V curve, really.
Right. Yeah. And so they produced as much or more, but with fewer people. And how are they doing that through automation?
Fantastic.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, that's all we have. Appreciate the time.